Last time I discussed about heat engines and I conveyed that heat engines are those engines which are converting heat into work. The conversion of heat into work may be of internal combustion engine type or external combustion engines type. In case of internal combustion engines, the combustion is taking place inside the cylinder, whereas when external combustion engines we are using, that time combustion of fuel is taking outside the engine. So both type of engines are different, their applications are different, their efficiencies are different. Again I conveyed that the requirement of an internal combustion engine is that from a given size of an engine, the amount of work which you are getting, that should be maximum possible. Means the size of engine should be smaller and work output should be more. Second, we said the conversion of heat into energy should be maximum, means efficiency of the engine should be maximum. Third one, we said the exhaust emissions which are coming out during combustion, those exhaust emissions should be minimum. And fourth one, I said the running of the engine, the processes which are taking place inside the cylinder, those processes should be smooth, means noise which is being created during the combustion, that noise should be minimum. Same time we have defined thermal efficiency also, and meaning of thermal efficiency is the amount of work output divided by heat supplied. Suppose I am supplying some 100 kilojoule heat in an internal combustion engine, same heat is not getting converted into work, some of the heat is wasted. Say 40 kilojoule work output if I obtained, so from 100 kilojoule heat input I have got 40 kilojoule work output. So thermal efficiency of an engine will be 40 divided by 100, it will be 40%. So those terms in terms of thermal efficiency and requirement of the engine we have discussed. Today some more detailing of the engines, particularly mean effective pressure. One term will be defining just one indicative pressure which is taking which is inside the cylinder and continuously working on the surface of the piston. That pressure is defined as mean effective pressure. So detailing of this mean effective pressure I will be doing. First of all, again I am saying the heat engine is a machine which is converting heat into work. Heat is a low grade energy, work is is high grade energy. So conversion of low grade energy into high grade energy is never be 100%. So heat which is a low grade energy, it will be converted with the help of heat engine into work which is high grade energy, and efficiency of an engine, that is thermal efficiency of an engine, is always less than 100%. Means the high grade energy which will be getting with the help of the combustion from the crankshaft of the engine, that will be always lower as compared to heat we have supplied to the engine. Some terms normally which we are using in the engines, the terminology in the engines which we are using. First of all, we are having a cylinder, engine cylinder we are having. Just you see the outer cylinder, metallic cylinder, as I am indicating with this arrow, it is cylinder of the engine. Inside the cylinder there is piston, again metallic component having piston rings also. This piston moves inside the cylinder. Above this I am indicating here bore. Bore is the diameter of the cylinder. The level up to which piston is reaching towards the top side, it is top dead center, means it is extreme center up to which piston will be reaching when it will be moving in upward direction. When piston is going in downward direction, it is coming to bottom dead center. So extreme centers are there, one is top dead center and lower one is bottom dead center. The distance covered between top dead center and bottom dead center is termed as stroke. It is measured in mm. And the amount of air or air fuel mixture which remains above the top dead center, it is termed as clearance volume. So clearance volume is that volume which is minimum in the cylinder after compression of the air fuel mixture. So the terminology when we are using in the case of engines, basically it is top dead center, it is bottom dead center, it is stroke, it is bore or sometime diameter of the cylinder, cylinder walls through which heat is getting transferred also, it is protecting piston movement. There are two valves, one is inlet valve as I am indicating from here, it is intake valve, another one is exhaust valve through which burnt products are going out for starting the combustion of air fuel mixture. If it is spark ignition engine, then we are using a spark plug. If it is diesel engine, then in place of spark plug we are using injector, which is injecting the fuel inside the cylinder. Normally when we are using diesel fuel, it is through injector. When it is petrol engine, then we are using spark plug. The lower side, if you see, piston is connected with a rod that is termed as connecting rod. The connecting rod is connected to crankshaft. Movement of this piston, reciprocating movement of the piston with the help of this connecting rod, it transferred to the crankshaft and crankshaft is rotating. When 4 strokes are completed, 4 stroke, first one is suction stroke. When piston is moving from TDC to BDC, fresh mixture. If it is diesel engine, then only air will be entering through intake valve. Piston will be moving towards bottom dead center, and during that time the crankshaft will be rotating by half revolution. Half revolution means 180-degree rotation of the crankshaft. So one stroke is making this crankshaft to rotate by 180-degree. In another stroke, when fresh mixture we have taken into the cylinder, that mixture, due to movement of the piston from BDC to TDC, will be compressed. When it will be compressing the mixture, same time crankshaft is rotating, again half revolution of the crankshaft. So 180-degree more rotation of the crankshaft. So during suction stroke it has been rotated by 180-degree. During compression stroke again it has been rotated by 180-degree. Means during suction and compression stroke the movement of the crankshaft is 360-degree. After compression, this spark plug, in the case of spark ignition engine, or injector is coming into action. If spark plug is there, it is starting the combustion of that fresh air fuel mixture which has been compressed during compression stroke. If it is diesel engine, then injector will be injecting the fuel into the cylinder. This is the main action inside the cylinder. This is the required action. During suction stroke no power we have obtained, during compression stroke we have, no power we have obtained, and both the strokes are idle strokes. Idle means no power output on the crankshaft, thus just crankshaft is rotating. When compression has taken place, when spark has initiated, that time combustion will be started inside the cylinder. Pressure due to combustion will be becoming high, and that high pressure will be forcing the piston to move in downward direction. This is effective stroke, this is power stroke. During this time piston again is moving from TDC to BDC. This stroke is termed as power stroke, and during this time again crankshaft will be rotating by 180-degree. So suction stroke 180-degree, compression stroke 180-degree, and effective stroke or power stroke or expansion stroke, during this time another 180-degree rotation of the crankshaft is observed. So during these 3 strokes the rotation of the crankshaft is 540-degree. During expansion stroke, when piston has reached to bottom dead center, third stroke will be completed, and finally the target is that after combustion, the combustion products which are available into the cylinder, those has to be exhausted into the atmosphere. After completion of this stroke, this is exhaust stroke. After completion of this one, we want that inside the cylinder no burnt product should be there except which will be available in the clearance volume. So during this stroke exhaust valve will open, piston will be moving in upward direction. The burnt products which were available into the cylinder, those products will be exhausted into the atmosphere. This stroke is exhaust stroke, and the movement of the crankshaft will be further 180-degree. So effectively all strokes have been completed. 4 effective strokes are there. One is suction stroke, during which no power is developed. Then second one is compression stroke, again no power inside the cylinder is developed. Third stroke is main stroke, when combustion has taken place, piston has moved from TDC to BDC, we have obtained the power on the crankshaft, and finally the burnt products has to be exhausted into the atmosphere, that is exhaust stroke. So during these 4 strokes crankshaft will be rotating by 720-degree. 2 rotations of the crankshaft, 4 strokes will be completed, and only third stroke is effective stroke, power stroke. These 4 strokes when are taking place when crankshaft is rotating by 180 degree in suction stroke, that time inlet valve remains in open position. It is open cycle period. So when 4 strokes are taking place, that time 180 degree of the crankshaft is the part of open cycle process. When this 180 degree open cycle process is completed, inlet valve be closed. Now it will be behaving just like a closed system. Piston will be moving from BDC to TDC. This 180 degree of the crankshaft rotation during compression stroke is the part of closed cycle period. So suction stroke is open cycle period, compression stroke is the closed cycle period, and when combustion is taking place, when power is being generated into the cylinder, again both the valves are in closed position. Piston will be moving from TDC to BDC. This 180 degree of the crankshaft rotation is part of closed cycle period again, because no mass exchange is taking place with surrounding. Inside the cylinder, if you are assuming it is a system, outside it is surrounding. So from system to surrounding, no exchange of mass is taking place, only heat transfer can take place, but mass transfer is not there. Mass transfer is only during suction stroke. During the compression and expansion stroke, there is no mass transfer, so it is closed cycle period. And finally, during exhaust stroke, exhaust valve will be opened and burnt products will be going out. This period is also part of open cycle period, because burnt products are going out. From system to surrounding, some mass exchange is taking place. So when 4 strokes are completed, when crankshaft is rotating by 720 degree, in all those 4 strokes, 2 strokes are part of open cycle and 2 strokes are part of closed cycle. The compression and expansion is closed cycle period, suction and exhaust is open cycle period. Always we want that speed of the crankshaft remain constant. During expansion stroke, during power stroke, because pressure inside the cylinder is sufficiently higher, the piston will be moving rapidly towards the bottom dead center, but remaining 3 strokes are idle stroke. The movement of the crankshaft becomes smaller as compared to the power stroke. For maintaining constant speed, we want to store that energy which has been produced during the expansion stroke, during the power stroke. So for storing the energy, one heavy mass we are putting on the crankshaft, that is termed as flywheel. So that flywheel will be storing the energy when power stroke is taking place, and that energy will be utilized during the remaining 3 idle strokes. So more or less crankshaft speed remains constant. Otherwise there will be variation of the speed of the crankshaft. During power stroke, rapidly crankshaft will be rotating, and in 3 idle strokes the speed of the crankshaft will become lower. Always our requirement is that speed of the crankshaft should remain constant. For the operation of this inlet and exhaust valve, we need some work input. That work input is taken from the crankshaft with the help of another shaft that is known as camshaft. And during these 4 strokes, when one cycle is completed, when 4 strokes are completed, crankshaft has taken rotation, 2 rotation it has taken, 720 degrees it has gone through. During that time, we are saying one cycle has been completed. One cycle means one power stroke we have obtained, and in one power stroke crankshaft has rotated by 2 revolutions, but the operation of the valves, inlet valve and exhaust valve, is once only. In one cycle, during 4 strokes, during 2 rotation of the crankshaft, opening of inlet and exhaust valve is once only. So the input which we are giving, the work input which we are giving with the help of camshaft, our requirement is when crankshaft is rotating by 2 revolutions, our camshaft should be rotated by 1 revolution only. So speed of the camshaft is just half of the crankshaft. So one gear mechanism we are providing on the crankshaft and camshaft, those are timing gears, and timing gears are maintaining the speed of camshaft half of the crankshaft. So all the accessories of the engine we are operating with the help of camshaft. So whatever power we are getting on the crankshaft, some of the power we are utilizing for operating these accessories. Side of this slide, if you see, actually the cross section of the piston and cylinder is visible. This lower part where piston rings are also available, these slots which are visible, these are piston rings. These piston rings are not allowing high pressure gases of the combustion to leak through this one, and if there is gap between cylinder and piston, some of the gases may go down towards the crankcase side. So to avoid that, proper seal is provided in the form of piston rings, that is maintaining constant touch of this piston with cylinder walls. So no high pressure gases are releasing through these sides towards the crankcase side and towards the crankcase. This side also you can see another cross section of this one, where piston is more or less at top dead center. The connecting rod is also visible here. Another piston is visible here. It is more or less at mid of its stroke. It may be in the expansion stroke. So in place of one cylinder, when we are having number of cylinders are more, here 3 cylinders are visible. So it is a multi-cylinder engine. It is having 3 cylinders in a line. All 3 cylinders are in line. When combustion is taking place in one of the cylinder, the temperature inside the cylinder will be very high, and the metals which we are using for the purpose of the construction of the cylinder and piston, they may not sustain that much high temperature. So for maintaining constant temperature inside the cylinder, cooling water is being supplied through these pockets. Cooling water is getting circulated, they are taking some of the heat, and that heat is rejected into the surrounding. So major reason for not converting 100% heat into work, major reason is roughly 1/3 of the total energy we are rejecting with cooling water for the purpose of doing cooling of the engine. Here you see the chemical energy part. First you see chemical energy, it is energy of the fuel. This chemical energy is termed as high grade energy. When combustion has taken place into the cylinder, the chemical energy is getting converted into heat energy, but during that time some of the heat is lost. It is being rejected from the cylinder either with cooling water or heat transfer from the cylinder walls, the conductive heat transfer, or through radiation or through convection heat is getting transferred. So the high grade energy, first it is converted into heat energy, but total heat energy due to these losses, due to the losses into the surrounding, total heat energy is not getting converted into work. So this is actual work output which we are receiving on the crankshaft. So total chemical energy, which was high grade energy, it has been converted into heat energy, which is low grade energy, and finally this low grade energy is getting converted into mechanical work, that is high grade energy. So conversion of this low grade energy into high grade energy, the conversion efficiency never be 100%, it is always less than 100%. This mechanical work can again be converted into 100% heat energy, but 100% heat energy conversion of this low grade energy into 100% high grade energy is not possible at all. That's why the efficiency of these engines are less than 100%. Always our targets are this conversion of heat into work should be maximum possible, and that is termed as thermal efficiency. Value of this thermal efficiency should be as high as possible. I am here explaining one high grade energy. I said chemical energy of the fuel or work output which you have obtained on the crankshaft, it is high grade energy. When high grade energy in the fuel exists, that time the molecules which we are having, those molecules are compact in form, or they are having highly in ordered form. Whereas when it is in low grade energy, particularly heat energy, this heat energy is stored either in air or in water, where the molecules are in disorder. They are less compact and disorder, that is termed as low grade energy. So high grade energy is chemical energy or work energy, whereas low grade energy, when I am saying, it is either in water or in air, where molecules are less in order. That's the difference. Both are having same unit in joules, either it may be low grade energy or high grade energy. Work is also measured in joule, heat is also measured in joule, but the potential of high grade energy, the usage of high grade energy, the cost of the high grade energy is much more as compared to low grade energy which is available in the form of heat. Even the energy which you are getting from sun, if that energy of the sun we are utilizing say for heating water in solar water heaters, that conversion of solar heat into again heat for heating the water is much more efficient as compared to the heat energy which you are getting from sun with the help of some photovoltaic mechanism. If you are converting that heat into electrical energy, that is work that is very less efficient. So efforts are always to convert heat into heat, and if required utilizing heat engine, converting that heat into work. But if possible mechanisms are available, if possibility is there, we should use heat as a heat, then our mechanisms will be much more efficient, our processes will be much more efficient. Here one term I am defining which is very popular in the case of internal combustion engine, it is termed as indicated power. If you see the combustion, these flames which are visible, it is due to combustion of the fuel. One side we have initiated the spark, with the help of spark one intense source of energy we will be having. Due to this one, flame will be propagating inside the cylinder, temperature inside the cylinder becomes very high. If it is spark engine, temperature may be around 2000 degree Celsius. If it is compression ignition engine, temperature may be 1600 degree Celsius, 1700 degree Celsius. So due to this high temperature, lot of heat will be transferred to surrounding also, and I said inside the cylinder one particular temperature we will have to maintain for making this lubrication effective. So for maintaining that constant temperature, some of the heat will have to reject with cooling water. So roughly 1/3 of this heat will be going out with cooling water. Some of the heat will be rejected from the cylinder walls also, even some of the fuel remains unburned. So the actual work which is obtained by the movement of the piston, which is the resultant of high pressure which is available into the cylinder. So actual work which is obtained by the piston due to the movement of the piston from TDC to BDC, this power, actual power which is available from the piston on the crankshaft, from the piston side, top side of the piston, high pressure is working, it is forcing the piston in downward direction. So inside the cylinder, the power which is available for moving the piston in downward direction after heat rejection, because some of the heat has been rejected and remaining is available for moving the piston in downward direction. The power which is available for moving the piston in downward direction, it is known as indicated power. Here you see energy in the fuel, that is chemical energy. That chemical energy has converted into heat. Out of that heat, some of the heat has been lost in cooling water, in radiation, even with exhaust products. So suppose 100 kilojoule heat we had in fuel as a chemical energy. Out of that one, that 100 kilojoule heat which I obtained here as heat, out of that one, some of the heat has been lost into this cooling water, radiation, and with exhaust. Suppose 100 kilojoule heat, 30 kilojoule suppose it has been lost, remaining will be 70 kilojoule. So that 70 kilojoule power will be available on the piston. That power is termed as indicated power. Again I am repeating this one, the heat energy of the fuel, the chemical reactions which has taken place during combustion of the fuel, the total energy, total heat energy which was available into the cylinder for the purpose of movement of the piston, total is not taking part in moving the piston in downward direction. Some of the heat has rejected. So here I am saying 30 kilojoule heat has been rejected, only 70 kilojoule is available for forcing the piston in downward direction, and that power is indicated power. Remainder is converted to power. After rejection of this heat, remainder is being used for forcing the piston to move in downward direction. That power is termed as indicated power. The power which we have received on the crankshaft, again because piston is moving inside the cylinder, lot of friction, it has to avoid, it has to overcome the friction, lot of heat will be lost in the friction. So whatever power, indicated power which was available on the piston surface, the total power is not getting converted into brake power also. So actual power which you are receiving on the crankshaft, that is brake power. Actual power which has been generated into the cylinder, it is indicated power, and ratio of these two, brake power divided by indicated power, is mechanical efficiency of the engine. Always our brake power is less than indicated power. Our efforts are to increase this indicated power also, and same type, if indicated power is increased, your brake power will be increasing. Indicated power will be increased if heat losses is minimized. Brake power will be increased if friction losses will be minimized. So the ratio of this brake power to indicated power, or ratio of the power which we have obtained on the crankshaft divided by indicated power which has been developed inside the cylinder, that is termed as brake power. Here I am showing you this yellow is, this red is, it is combustion. It is forcing, this combustion is forcing this piston to move in downward direction. Yes. So whatever power here it has been developed due to combustion, after subtracting the heat losses through the cylinder walls, through the cooling water, the heat which is available into the cylinder for moving the piston in downward direction, that is indicated power. But whereas this blue region which I am showing, the movement of the crankshaft, on this crankshaft we are getting the power is less than indicated power, and it is brake power. So this power we are transferring to the wheels. The power which we have obtained on the crankshaft, it is being transferred on the wheels. Always we want to maximize this power, brake power. Always we want to maximize this indicated power. This indicated power divided by heat supplied, the fuel energy. Indicated power divided by this fuel energy is termed as indicated thermal efficiency. Whereas this brake power which I am saying here, which is we are receiving on the crankshaft, this brake power divided by heat supplied here for the purpose of movement of the piston in downward direction, it is brake thermal efficiency. So this power divided by this heat is brake thermal efficiency. This power divided by this heat is indicated thermal efficiency. Always brake thermal efficiency is lower as compared to indicated thermal efficiency, or in other words I am saying indicated thermal efficiency of an engine is higher as compared to brake thermal efficiency. This 4 strokes separately, again if we are discussing suction stroke, movement of the piston from TDC to BDC, fresh mixture is entering into the cylinder, inlet valve remains in open position. Here on pressure volume diagram, the variation of the pressure inside the cylinder when piston is moving in downward direction, that time how pressure is changing inside the cylinder with respect to change in volume. We can observe here, when piston will be moving in downward direction, that time volume inside the cylinder will be increasing. Here I am saying one vertical dotted line I am showing here, another vertical dotted line I am showing here. This is point 1 which is representing the TDC. Here TDC it is representing. This one is TDC. When piston moves from TDC to BDC, from 1 to 2 I am showing you here, TDC to BDC movement of the piston, and one another horizontal dotted line I am showing you, it is corresponding to atmospheric pressure. This dotted line, horizontal line, is corresponding to atmospheric pressure. This vertical line is corresponding to pressure, horizontal line is corresponding to volume. We are seeing when suction stroke is taking place, 1 to 2 more or less pressure is lower than atmospheric. When suction stroke is taking place, when piston is moving from TDC to BDC, pressure inside the cylinder is lower than atmospheric. Means when piston is moving towards the downward direction, inside the cylinder vacuum will be created. The rate at which piston is moving in downward direction, at the same rate air is unable to enter into the cylinder. So due to that one, inside the cylinder vacuum will be created, and for creation of the vacuum, major reason is obstruction due to inlet valve. Inlet valve is not allowing air to move freely into the cylinder. and same time we are having air filter, if it is petrol engine, we are having carburetor also. So many obstructions are there in the movement of the air, many bends are there, the intake manifold surface friction is there. So that friction is not allowing air to move freely into the cylinder, and that's why when suction stroke is taking place from 1 to 2, pressure inside the cylinder will become lower than atmospheric. And this suction stroke needs power, because we are saying inside the cylinder vacuum has been created, it means it needs some energy, it needs some power. So the power which we have obtained during power stroke, out of that some power is being used for the purpose of bringing the fresh mixture into the cylinder during suction stroke. In petrol engines, this vacuum will be much more as compared to diesel engines, because in the case of diesel engine, freely air is coming into the cylinder without any obstruction of the throttle valve of the carburetor. So the vacuum which is being created into the cylinder in diesel engine will be lower as compared to petrol engine. We don't want any vacuum at the time of suction into the cylinder. Creation of vacuum means some power is needed. Suppose this room from where I am delivering the lecture, here if I want to create the vacuum, this air has to be removed from here. For removing the air, we will have to have some work input, some vacuum cleaner will have to have, some vacuum pump will have to have, which will be sucking this air from here, and vacuum will be created into the room, but at the cost of some work. So always our requirement is that suction stroke which is taking place, it should be more or less at atmospheric pressure. Normally it is observed when piston comes at BDC during suction stroke, pressure is around 0.9 times of the atmospheric pressure, means 10% lower than atmospheric. This is suction stroke where we have sucked the fresh mixture into the cylinder. Now you can observe that the cylinder has been filled by the fresh mixture, but its pressure is lower than atmospheric. Our requirements are that always pressure inside the cylinder should be atmospheric. If pressure inside the cylinder is lower, the density of air will be lower than atmospheric, mass of the air which we have captured into the cylinder, that will be lower as compared to if this space, this TDC to BDC space would have been filled at atmospheric condition. And sometimes in my further lectures I will be discussing one new term, that is volumetric efficiency. Volumetric efficiency is mass of air which has to be filled into the cylinder at atmospheric pressure, but actually we have observed that during suction stroke pressure inside the cylinder becomes less than atmospheric. If it is less than atmospheric, density of air will be lower, mass of the air which has entered into the cylinder will be lesser as compared to if this would have been filled at atmospheric conditions. So again, volumetric efficiency of engine is a concern, it is a very serious issue. Lower the pressure inside the cylinder, lower the volumetric efficiency, power output of the engine will be lesser. When I have discussed in my first lecture, we wanted that from a given size of engine, power output should be more, it should be maximum possible. It will be maximum possible only if amount of air which is entering into the cylinder is more, but we have observed that during suction stroke some vacuum will be created, and due to that one less air we are able to trap into the cylinder. Always in working conditions we want to increase this pressure, we want to have more air into the cylinder, means more volumetric efficiency we want. Higher the volumetric efficiency, higher the work output of the engine. Then next, after suction both the valves will be closed. This red valves which has been shown, this is exhaust valve, this inlet valve, it has been closed. Piston has moved from BDC to TDC. This compression line, if I am showing you 2 to 3, I am showing you from BDC piston has started, it is moving towards TDC. We can observe volume will be decreasing because it is moving from BDC to TDC, volume will be decreasing. When volume will be decreasing, pressure inside the cylinder is increasing. This is 2 to 3 is compression stroke. Yes, 2 to 3 is compression stroke. So air or air fuel mixture, it has come into a very small volume here, it is inside the clearance volume. When piston was at BDC, that time total volume was of the swept volume between TDC and BDC plus clearance volume, but after compression stroke the volume of the mixture is only up to the clearance volume. It is small volume, very small volume. This clearance volume is also very important. The swept volume and clearance volume, particularly this clearance volume with respect to swept volume, this term is also very important. So, I am showing 1 to 2 is suction stroke here on pressure volume diagram, 2 to 3 is compression stroke. Whatever we have taken during suction stroke, that we are compressing. And now after end of compression or near compression stroke, we have initiated spark here. It is spark ignition engine. We have initiated spark here. This spark is making flame to propagate into the cylinder. Combustion of air fuel mixture. This red line which I am indicating here, more or less at constant volume. You see this vertical line is constant volume. So, 3 and 4 more or less at constant volume. The fuel has released its energy. Heat is being generated into the cylinder. This 3 to 4 is heat addition process. More or less at constant volume, the heat is being added. Always for maximizing the efficiency we want without consuming any time, heat has to be added. More or less it has to be added at constant volume. Here you see 3 to 4 more or less at constant volume heat addition. Yes, the heat of the fuel is being released, the temperature inside the cylinder is increasing, pressure inside the cylinder is increasing, and it is forcing the piston to move in downward direction, and that stroke, that's useful stroke, it is power stroke. Now piston will be moving in power stroke from TDC to BDC. From 4 to 5 it will be moving. Here you see 4 to 5 it is moving, it is expansion stroke. So 1 to 2 we said suction, 2 to 3 we said compression, then 3 to 4 heat addition due to combustion, and 4 to 5 it is expansion, it is power stroke, yes, this one. And area under this line is very important. This area, always we want that this line should be quite high. Yes, higher this line, the value of pressure at 4, higher this pressure, higher the work output will be having. So 4 to 5 this expansion stroke is very important when piston is moving from TDC to BDC. And finally you see 5 to 6, that time your exhaust valve will be opened, piston will be moving in upward direction, the exhaust stroke is going on, 5 to 1, again 5 to 1 if you observe, piston is moving from BDC to TDC, burn products are going out, but the size of this valve, size of the exhaust valve is very small. So the rate at which piston is moving in upward direction for exhausting the burnt products, at the same rate they are not going out into the atmosphere. So the pressure line you see, the exhaust stroke pressure you see, it is always higher than atmospheric. 5 to 1 line we see, it is higher than atmospheric. Means for making the burnt products to go out, again we have to need some work, we need some energy so that they can be exhausted from the cylinder. At the time of suction, vacuum was created, we have wasted some power. When we are making them to go out during exhaust stroke, again their energy is higher than atmospheric. We have taken the mix, the fresh mix at lower than atmospheric. When they are going out, they are having pressure higher than atmosphere. It means they are carrying some energy with them. So this area under the line 5 to 1 and between 1 to 2, this area is negative area. We want that the space which has been occupied, this area, this should be smallest position, and area between this diagram, area between this 5, 3, 4, it should be maximum possible. This is basically indicated power. Area between 5, 3, 4, it is indicated power which we have obtained in one cycle, and area between 1, 2, 5, 1, this area, it is pumping loop or it is negative area. So work which you have obtained, indicated power which you have obtained, out of that sufficient power will be wasting for taking the mixture into the cylinder during suction stroke and exhausting the burnt products into the atmosphere. This area, the upper area is positive area, this lower area is negative area. So this positive minus negative is more or less is your brake power. If the area of this one is suppose 40 units, area of this unit, this diagram is 5 units. So 40 minus 5, the brake power which will be getting, that is 35. Our efforts are to increase this area, indicated power we want to increase, and this area would like to decrease, this negative area or this pumping work we would like to decrease. These diagrams which are shown you between this pressure and volume, the area which we have obtained here, this we are obtaining with the help of some pressure pickups. When we are conducting the experiments on the engine, pressure pickups are mounted just like our spark plug we are mounting, and for measuring the change in volume we are taking the help of some crank angle encoders, that is giving theta. So first of all, this diagram is coming in the form of pressure versus theta on x axis. In those diagrams, indicated diagrams, it is pressure versus theta, then theta which we are having, that theta versus volume inside the cylinder we are measuring, and that is in terms of volume. So first pressure versus theta diagram and then pressure versus volume diagram we are obtaining, and for that purpose we are needing pressure pickups which are mounted on this cylinder head, and we are needing crank angle encoder we are mounting on the crankshaft. Sometimes when I will explaining this internal combustion engines in detail, I will be explaining how we are obtaining this pressure theta diagrams, how we are obtaining this pressure volume diagrams, and with the help of that one we are getting the indicated power. This is one of the methods for obtaining the indicated power of an engine. Once we have obtained the indicated power, once we have obtained this pumping loop, we can obtain the brake power also. This one, pressure versus volume. This cycle which I am showing you, I am showing you Carnot cycle. Carnot cycle is also the cycle for heat engine, where heat we are supplying 1 to 2 we have supplied heat, and during supply of heat the temperature remains constant. In Carnot cycle, when heat has been supplied, here if you observe, in previous slide if you observe, when we added heat from 3 to 4, more or less our volume was constant. You see here volume was constant, but in the case of Carnot cycle, if you see, volume is changing. 1 to 2 heat is being added, QH, when we are adding the heat, piston is moving. It means piston is moving from TDC to BDC, heat is being added, but temperature remains constant. Due to expansion 1 to 2, temperature should go down because expansion is taking place, pressure is decreasing, but same time heat is being added. So the expansion which has taken place, which is resulting into lower temperature, but same time when heat has been added into this one, final result is to keep temperature constant. This is most efficient way of adding the heat, whereas the heat addition which I have shown you at constant volume, this is an irreversible process. Here there is loss when we are adding the heat. The movement of the molecules, movement of the atoms are in such a way, they are creating irreversibility in the system, but this heat addition which is at constant temperature, it is a reversible process, very efficient process, but in practical cycle it is not possible at all. When heat is being added at constant temperature, it means the heat has to be added slowly into the system, or the time available for adding the heat should be significantly higher, and air which we are having inside the cylinder and the heat which is added from external source, there should be minimum temperature difference between air or the working fluid and the heat source which you are having outside the cylinder. In the case of Carnot cycle, there is external source of heat addition. So external source temperature and temperature of the working fluid inside the cylinder, it should be more or less same, then process will become reversible. From 2 to 3 we are removing the heat source from here, and rapidly we are moving the piston from 2 to 3, so that no heat exchange shall take place. There is no exchange of heat, there is no friction. So this 2 to 3 process is reversible adiabatic. 1 to 2 constant temperature, 2 to 3 expansion, it is reversible adiabatic process. So whatever we add, heat we have added, it is getting converted into work. But we said the heat engines are working in a cycle only. So again the piston has to reach from BDC to TDC, it will be reaching from BDC to TDC only if some of the heat is rejected to the surrounding. QC, if some heat is rejected to the surrounding, means useful heat we have given to working fluid, but some of the heat intensely we have rejected to the surrounding, means whatever heat we are giving for the purpose of getting work output, same heat is not getting converted into total work output. Some of the heat intensely we have wasted, so that piston can come back. If temperature will be reduced, if heat is exchanged, temperature will be reduced, then only piston can move towards the top dead center. 3 to 4 heat exchange is taking place from the cylinder to surrounding, but same time piston is moving from 3 to 4, it is reducing the volume. Due to reduction, temperature should increase, but same times of heat exchange is taking place, it is resulting into decrease in temperature. Net effect will be to keep temperature constant. Again this process is reversible. And finally compression, no heat exchange after 4, it is compressing the working fluid from 4 to 1. This process is also reversible adiabatic compression process. So all 4 processes, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 1, all processes are reversible, but still efficiency of the Carnot cycle, thermal efficiency of the Carnot cycle is not 100%. This heat supplied QH minus QC, which are rejected to the surrounding, divided by heat supplied is thermal efficiency. It would have been 100% if here it is QH, QC is becoming 0, suppose, then QH divided by QH will be 100%, but QC won't be 0. Some QC has to be, some heat rejection is to be, then only this cycle can be completed. Even the process, all 4 processes are reversible, but still efficiency of the Carnot cycle is not 100%. So never be confused that Carnot cycle is 100% efficient. In many of the examinations, in many of the interviews, it is asked that does Carnot cycle is 100% efficient? No, it is never be 100% efficient, because for completing the cycle, some of the heat has to be rejected into the surrounding. However, it is most efficient. It is most efficient among all the cycles, but it is not 100% efficient, because some of the heat we have wasted in the form of QC. In the case of this type of cycle where heat addition is at constant volume, this process is irreversible. So as compared to Carnot cycle, this cycle will be giving lesser efficiency, because this process of heat addition is irreversible process. 3 to 4 heat addition is constant volume, it is just like ideal Otto cycle. In the case of Otto cycle, heat addition is at constant volume. So the cycle which I am indicating here, it is Otto cycle, irreversible process of heat addition. Here another cycle I am indicating you, where heat addition between 2 and 3, these are air standard cycles. This cycle is air standard, air working fluid is air and heat addition is from external source. Similarly, the cycle which I am showing you, here working fluid is air, is inside the cylinder, heat source is outside, no combustion inside the cylinder, 2 to 3 heat addition is there, and it is at constant pressure. Again heat addition at constant pressure is also irreversible. 3 to 4 expansion, it is reversible. 4 to 1 heat rejection, it is again irreversible process, and 1 to 2 compression, it is reversible adiabatic. So this cycle is corresponding to diesel cycle. In the case of diesel cycle, heat addition is at constant pressure. In the case of Otto cycle, heat addition is at constant volume. In the case of Carnot cycle, heat addition is at constant temperature, whereas in the case of diesel cycle, heat addition is at constant pressure, but these processes of heat addition and heat rejection processes are irreversible. That is why even this cycle, the diesel cycle, which is having heat addition at constant pressure, it is less efficient as compared to Carnot cycle, because heat addition process including heat rejection process is irreversible. Always we want to achieve the efficiency of the Carnot cycle, but that cycle is not possible at all. Even this constant pressure heat addition, constant volume heat addition is also not practically possible. In the case of petrol engine, more or less heat addition is at constant pressure, whereas in the case of diesel engine, partly it is at constant volume, partly it is at constant pressure. This is indicated power. This I am saying indicated power. Heat addition between 2 and 3 it is at constant volume, 4 and 1 heat rejection at constant volume, the entropy during expansion between 3 and 4 it is constant, during compression it is constant, but 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 processes are irreversible. And area of this diagram, PV diagram, if I measure, it is corresponding to indicated power of Otto cycle. In the case of Otto cycle, no suction, no exhaust, no line is available here, only working fluid air inside the cylinder. It is behaving just like a closed cycle, no exhaust stroke, but it is irreversible cycle. It is having efficiency less than Carnot cycle. Here I am indicating here efficiency of Otto cycle with respect to term R, compression ratio. One new term I am defining here, compression ratio. Compression ratio is total volume of the cylinder. When we are saying total volume of the cylinder, it is swept volume plus clearance volume and divided by clearance volume. So the total volume of the cylinder divided by the clearance volume, it is compression ratio. As compression ratio is increasing, here on x axis you see, as compression ratio is increasing, efficiency, thermal efficiency of an engine is increasing. It is increasing up to certain extent. After that, more or less is becoming constant. So higher the compression ratio, higher the efficiency, but further if you are increasing the compression ratio, the curve become flat and efficiency becomes constant. In the case of petrol engine, always our efforts are to increase this compression ratio. Normally the compression ratio which you are having in petrol engines, it is around 8, 8.5. In the case of diesel engine, it is 15, 16, 17. So diesel engines are having higher compression ratios, petrol engines are having lesser compression ratios due to the difficulties in combustion. In petrol engine, we can't increase compression ratio above a certain limit. However, as we are increasing the compression ratio, efficiency of petrol engine is increasing, but there are many limitations as far as combustion is concerned. In the case of diesel engine, now trends are to reduce slightly compression ratio, so that combustion the compression becomes effective. Even starting difficulties which are there in case of diesel engine, if compression ratios are lower, starting difficulties will be lesser. Many assumptions we are having when we are using air standard cycles. We are assuming air is a working fluid, working fluid is air which is ideal gas. During compression and expansion, there is no change in composition, our temperature is changing, Cp, Cv value can change, but we are assuming that combustion, the composition is constant. Heat addition is from external source, as I indicated here. Suction and exhaust strokes are not available, and all the processes are internally reversible. Internally, when I am saying, it is for friction, there is no friction. Externally reversible means there is no heat exchange. If both internally and externally reversible processes are there, then we are saying reversible adiabatic process. If there is no exchange, means if externally irreversible, then only it is reversible process, not adiabatic, because adiabatic it is if there is no heat exchange. So reversible adiabatic means internally reversible also, externally reversible also, and we are assuming that specific heats are also constant. Here, if equal to pressure volume diagram, the upper part of the pressure volume diagram which we have shown during compression and expansion, if equal to this area, if equal to this area, if I plot a rectangle, if I plot a rectangle equal to the area of this pressure volume diagram, so the x axis and the x axis of this rectangle will be volume, y axis will be pressure, and reference pressure is atmospheric pressure. So the lower red line is atmospheric pressure line, upper line is the upper line of this rectangle. This area of this rectangle, which cross section which I am indicating, this area is equal to area of this pressure volume diagram. I think it is clear. The rectangle which I have plotted in red line, the area of this rectangle is equal to the area of this indicated diagram. This height of this rectangle is indicated through Pm. Pm is mean effective pressure. Another new term we are defining, it is mean effective pressure, very important term in the case of internal combustion engines. And higher the mean effective pressure, higher the work output, because this area of this diagram, this is pressure multiplied by volume, it is area of this diagram. So higher this area, higher the work output, means higher the mean effective pressure, higher the work output. So one constant pressure we are assuming that during this whole cycle, during this compression process and expansion process, one constant pressure inside the cylinder is being maintained, and that pressure is equal to mean effective pressure. In the case of diesel engines, this value is higher. In the case of petrol engine, the value of mean effective pressure is lower. Here you see the actual pressure volume diagram. This area which this is the area which is corresponding to this area, this red area, it is corresponding to this area. This is suction and exhaust, which earlier I was mentioning. This is negative area. Here we will have to give some work input. Here we are obtaining the work output. Here some work input we will have to give for exhausting the burnt products and for taking the fresh mixture into the cylinder. This I shown this area of the rectangle equal to this loop. The area which I plotted here, it is pumping mean effective pressure, it is negative. So the mean effective pressure which we obtained, that is with the help of this, was the MEP mean effective pressure, equal to this, the rectangle which I plotted, it is pumping mean effective pressure, it is negative. Always we want to reduce this one. The upper one we want to increase, this one we want to reduce. Just for one, if explaining this mean effective pressure, one small video I want to show you. Small video I want to show you.
Brake mean effective pressure. The average mean pressure which, if imposed on the pistons uniformly from the top to the bottom of each power stroke, would produce the measured brake power output. Brake mean effective pressure synonyms: BMEP. B R A K P N P A N P F F P C T I V P P R P S S U R P.
So indicated mean effective pressure I have explained, and brake mean effective pressure. If indicated mean effective pressure minus this PMEP we are reducing, we are getting the brake mean effective pressure. The brake mean effective pressure PM means height of the diagram multiplied by volume, swept volume, that is PM multiplied by swept volume is area of the diagram, and this area of the diagram we are obtaining in one cycle, but crankshaft is rotating by n revolutions per minute. So multiplied by n, if we are having, it is area or in the indicated power in a minute, but the number of cycles which are taking place in a minute, it will be n by 2. So here the indicated power which I am showing you, brake mean effective, the mean effective pressure multiplied by swept volume multiplied by number of cycles per minute. So number of cycles, effective cycles, will be n by 2 divided by 60. So mean effective pressure, swept volume is stroke length L multiplied by area of the piston multiplied by n divided by 120. Again I am repeating, indicated power is area of the diagram, that is mean effective pressure multiplied by swept volume, that is the work output we are getting in one cycle, but in a minute in 4-stroke engine number of cycles will be n by 2, because when 4 strokes are completed, crankshaft will be rotating by 2 revolutions, but the effective cycle will be only 1 in 4 strokes. 1 cycle we are obtaining when 1 cycle will be completed, and number of cycles in a minute will be n by 2. So in a minute the output which you are getting, that is mean effective pressure multiplied by stroke length multiplied by piston area, that will be equal to swept volume multiplied by n number of cycles which will be n by 2, and per second if I am saying, it will be divided by 60. The unit which will be obtained, it is in watts. So indicated power in watt, PM mean effective pressure, it is in Newton per meter square, L is stroke length in meters, area of the piston in meter square, N is the engine RPM. So indicated power, with the help of this formula we can calculate. Only 25% power which is being obtained from the fuel, it is getting converted into useful power. Our efforts are, this has to increase, the power output has to be increased, and for that purpose the breathing capacity, the amount of air which you are taking into the cylinder per minute, that amount should increase. So many of the companies are now trying even adjustment of the valve timing in such a way that amount of air which you are taking into the cylinder in a cycle, that should become maximum. Power output from a given size engine should become maximum. Some of the questions normally which are being asked while you people will be tested in the examination. One question is the brake power output which you are getting on the brake shaft and divided by the input which is being given to this one, it is termed as brake thermal efficiency. So, true or false? The statement is true, very true, because the brake output divided by heat supplied, it is equal to thermal efficiency. So, the options which are given here, true and false, this statement is true. Another one, the ratio of the work obtained at the crankshaft in given time to the energy supplied during the same time is called overall efficiency. The output which you have obtained on the crankshaft and the heat input which has been given, this efficiency is termed as overall efficiency. Mechanical efficiency which is given here, it is brake output divided by indicated output, it is mechanical efficiency. Indicated thermal efficiency, indicated power output divided by heat supplied. Volumetric efficiency, it is corresponding the amount of air which we are able to trap into the cylinder. So, in terms of heat which we are having, it is overall efficiency. Here the correct answer is overall efficiency. Third question, when I am discussing the ratio of the brake power to the indicated power, I conveyed you, that is termed as mechanical efficiency. So, brake power divided by indicated power is mechanical efficiency. I think it is also clear. Then the ratio of the indicated thermal efficiency to the air standard efficiency is known as air standard efficiency when working fluid is air. Indicated thermal efficiency when in actual cycle the indicated power which we are obtaining. Air standard cycle efficiency will be more as compared to the actual cycle. So, the ratio of the indicated thermal efficiency divided by air standard efficiency, which is our dream in fact. So, it is the efficiency which is there, it is mechanical efficiency I am saying, overall efficiency I am saying, indicated thermal efficiency I am saying. So, it is the term is coming, one new term is coming, that is termed as relative efficiency. It is basically indicated thermal efficiency divided by air standard efficiency is relative efficiency. Then the sequence of the efficiencies, most efficient is 4-stroke CI engines, then 4-stroke SI engine, CI stands for compression ignition engines, then 4-stroke spark ignition engines, and then 2-stroke spark ignition engine. Second option is 4-stroke SI engine. Always as compared to spark ignition engines, compression ignition engines are more efficient because their compression ratios are higher. At same compression ratio, if I am comparing both SI and CI engines, if I am comparing, spark ignition engines are more efficient, but at different compression ratios, because compression ratio in the case of diesel engine is higher as compared to 4-stroke spark ignition engine, 4-stroke CI engines are more efficient. Then third one, it has been given 4-stroke CI engine and then 2-stroke SI. 2-stroke SI engines are less efficient. So, sequence if you see in terms of efficiencies, highest efficient is 4-stroke CI engine, then 4-stroke SI engine, and lowest efficiency is 2-stroke SI engine. So, A is correct. Then brake power of diesel engine keeping other parameters constant can be increased by, one is saying decreasing the density of intake air, wrong, it is wrong. Always we want to increase the density of air higher so that work output will be more. Then it is said increasing the temperature of the intake air, no, if temperature will be increasing, density of air will be decreasing. This statement is also incorrect. Then third one is increasing the pressure of intake air, yes, if we are able to increase the pressure of intake air, then work output will be increased, and indicated work output will increase, and finally brake power. So, for increasing brake power, we will have to increase the pressure of intake air. C is correct here, and D it is saying decreasing the pressure of intake air. If pressure will be lower, density will be lower, no, power will be decreased. So, here correct statement is C. Thank you very much. Next time again these efficiencies, different type of efficiencies we will be discussing in this lecture. If you see, we have started to say that heat which you are supplying to the engine, it is not getting converted into useful work output 100%. Then we have defined that some of the losses at the during combustion it is taking place, some of the heat is transferred to cooling water, some of the heat is going to exhaust, some heat is rejected in friction also. So indicated power we have defined here, brake power we have defined here, indicated mean effective pressure we have defined here, brake mean effective pressure we have defined here, pumping mean effective pressure we have defined, and finally some of the question we have taken here. I think you have enjoyed this lecture, and next time detailing of these efficiencies in terms of volumetric efficiency, in terms of work output we will be taking.